I've got the 13 horror movies that you need to watch in July of 2025. I can't wait to tell you about the one that I'm most looking forward to. What's up, cretins? What's up, creeps? My name is Chris. I am the only person talking horror on the internet. Hit the subscribe, save this one. I do one of these every month. From new releases to milestone anniversaries, from holiday celebrations to underseen exploitations, this is your calendar of carnage for July 2025. Got nothing on that one. That's a decent pun. You're just being nice because it's my birthday this month. Maybe. So let's start the festivities on July 2nd with a theatrical double feature that you've gotta see. First up, Godzilla and Rogue One director Gareth Edwards takes the reins of the Jurassic World universe with Jurassic World Rebirth. 5 years after the events of the last movie that came out 3 years ago, surviving dinosaurs have inhabited islands, and it's up to Scarlett Johansson to collect biomaterials to create a drug that can potentially save lives. What they didn't account for? Mutation! Sounds very Island of Dr. Moreau. Yes, this is horror enough for this list. Watch the trailers where they openly talk about how this movie is meant to scare you. Many of you have already seen this under the AMC's Screen Unseen or your theater's equivalent. I will never regret missing a Screen Unseen as much as I did this one. And while on the topic of Screen Unseens, the week prior, you may have already caught our second flick for July, 40 Acres. 50 years from now, the world has become a post-apocalyptic landscape with food scarcity putting the populace in dire straits. A black Canadian family descended from Civil War soldiers have to defend their land and resources against a group of cannibals looking to seize them. If you've seen the trailer, you know how tense this movie looks, but I'm sure that there's plenty of subtext to dig into as well. So whether you want to do 40 Acres first so that you can turn off your brain during Jurassic World Rebirth, or if you want to do Jurassic World Rebirth first so that you can contemplate 40 Acres on the ride home, either way, see both. We're skipping the 4th of July because frankly, there's just too much to watch this month. But you do you. We just watched Jaws last month. We got Return of the Living Dead next month, Silver Bullet in October. I got other stuff that I could throw to you, but I don't want any guff about sending you something bad or that you've already seen. So in lieu of that, we're skipping to the following Monday on the 7th, where I've got another double feature for you, but this one you can catch from home. We're gonna start you off with the 30th anniversary of Species. Probably the biggest and most well-regarded of 1995's horror movies, Species did a huge $113 million box office that year. You put that into perspective, $113 million on an R-rated sci-fi horror movie would be good today. Adjusted for inflation, it's roughly $239 million in 2025 money. This movie was everywhere in the summer of '95 because this tale of a group of scientists and government officials that are trying to capture an alien-human hybrid before it mates is awesome. Michael Madsen drops the Free Willy bullshit that he was on, and he's back to being in full Mr. Blonde mode. You got Ben Kingsley, Forrest Whitaker, and one of Michelle Williams' earliest roles. But now nobody really talks about this movie because unfortunately it was marred by 3 abysmal sequels, but moreover, your uncle didn't care about seeing Natasha Henstridge's boobs on the big screen anymore when he had the VHS and he could smack it in the privacy of his own home. Ask him about this movie. I bet he still gets a twinkle in his eye. And elsewhere. 5 years later, a similarly unexpected monumental success happened for the Wayans brothers when they gave us the first Scary Movie. To date, still the most focused and best written of the now Scary Movie franchise, the original came out 25 years ago, at a time when people had grown tired of horror movies. I wasn't tired of them. I know, I'm not talking about you or me or them, right? I'm talking about the other 99% of people that saw Scream 1 and 2 and like The Sixth Sense and complained about how the Blair Witch Project wasn't even a movie. Those people don't self-identify as horror fans. They were just going to see movies. And they were ready for the genre to be laughed at. For us, it was a movie that laughed at the genre that we loved, but you could tell that it was coming from fellow fans. It spawned 4 increasingly less inspired sequels, and worse yet, yeah, it gave careers to Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer. The 2 of the 6 guys that brought you Scary Movie. You remember that shit? This movie was good enough that their minimal contributions made it so that we couldn't get rid of them for 15 fucking years. With the Wayans brothers back in the saddle for the upcoming reboot, let's hope that they don't tap these hacks and leave them to whichever circle of hell they've descended to for the past decade. Oh, they're right down at the 9th. 9th is for treachery. Think of how many movies they were trusted with. Yeah, I hear you, man. And hey, speaking of descending, July 8th marks the 20th anniversary of film number 5, The Descent. A masterclass in both claustrophobic horror and creature features, Neil Marshall's second film follows 6 women who go spelunking in the wrong cave system. Encroaching on the home of a subterranean humanoid species, they will have to fight to survive. Creature design in The Descent is amazing. It's one of the most memorable monsters of the 2000s. And the use of light and dark is one of the most tactful applications that you'll see. It's why this movie is still spoken of as one of the scariest movies ever made. And it's a movie that Marshall has justifiably been chasing ever since. Dig yourself out by the 11th and get to a theater for Abraham's Boys, A Dracula Story. Based on the book by Joe Hill, that's Stephen King's son, he gave us the Black Phone, Horns, and the AMC series Nosferatu. Abraham's Boys follows Max and Rudy, the sons of Abraham Van Helsing, as they learn about and inevitably inherit the family business. This, to me, looks like a solid concept, and Joe Hill's work traditionally is. If it's done right, this could be the sleeper hit of the summer. Alright, so not required watching, but Fathom Events is putting horror comedy Skill House into theaters for limited showings, which looks like a Saw movie but with annoying influencers as the victims, and Curtis 50 Cent Jackson as himself is in the John Kramer role. Not a club you'll find me in, Fitty. I'll sit outside and you'll see what I'm waiting for a week later on the 18th when your 7th movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer, slashes its way into theaters. Following the original Ickwidless, we got a terrible sequel, a direct-to-video threequel that most people don't even know happened, and a television series that got canceled after 1 season because nobody watched it. But shock surprise, I'm actually really optimistic about this movie. I think we're at a point where with so much failure, they're not going to put money into this series without something that they're confident that people will gravitate to. Danger side of that, I can guarantee you that if this flops, done. So if you want more from the I Know What You Did Last Summer universe, or just more in studio slashers in general, this is the movie to get hooked on. Don't leave the theater just yet though, as the 18th is another double duty day as Ari Aster brings us his 4th film, our 8th for the month, Eddington. Is that a horror movie? I don't even know, but you let me get away with putting The Life of Chuck on last month's list, right? Eddington is actually billed as a comedy western, despite the fact that the New Mexico setting looks to be the only western thing about it, and I don't see anything that leans comedic. Astor's new epic has the A-list cast that he can now command, including Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, Austin Butler, and Emma Stone. And it chronicles the political and social turmoil of the year 2020. By my count, I think this is the first bigger film about that time period, and you're not going to convince me that Aster isn't putting some horror element into it, right? If you throw a dick monster into Beau is Afraid, you can find some way to work horror into this. Word to the wise, if you're double featuring, grab yourself a large popcorn and a drink at the beginning because Eddington alone is 2.5 hours. Aster is a long-winded dude. Yeah, look who's talking. Guilty as charged. Also not required, But I am obliged to tell you that the 18th also has Bella Thorne, Ryan Phillippe, and Rebecca De Mornay in St. Clair. This is the story of a woman who is taunted by voices that tell her to kill. And the Australian folk horror, The Banished. Check out the trailers, both of them sounded very interesting. It was hard to cut them out of this list. But we had to in order to stay in neo-pseudo-western territory as we move to the 22nd, because I am the devil and I've come to do the devil's work of reminding you of the 20th anniversary of The Devil's Rejects. Following the far more visceral House of a Thousand Corpses, Rob Zombie took the Firefly family from villains to anti-heroes in the rare sequel that contends with its predecessor as for which is the better film. If you don't agree with that, I guarantee your response in that debate has always been, that's not my personal favorite, but I get it. I personally love both, but it's the shift in perspective that does it for me with Devil's Rejects, right? You watch this movie, you see these vile people at the beginning, and then you're slowly spoon-fed a humanity that flips your perspective on them to the point where you're rooting for them at the end. I think that this is a lot more measured and intelligent of a film than people give it credit for being. And I think the statements about how anybody can be the villain and anybody can be the victim is not something that we see often in filmmaking because it's uncomfortable to understand the truth that we all mostly sit somewhere in between. You don't want to watch it? What, don't you like fucking clowns? Aren't they fucking funny? Apparently there is no clowning on the 25th though, in the Pete Davidson starring dramatic horror film. Your 10th movie for the month is The Home. Coming from writer-director James DeMonaco, who previously wrote all 5 and directed 3 of the Purge movies, The Home follows Davidson's Max as he begins working at a retirement home with a 4th floor that he is not supposed to go on. I think The Home shows a lot of promise, but I heavily urge you, avoid the trailer. This is one where they give away entirely too much. Don't ruin the movie for yourself. And as we move to the 26th, I'm gonna give you your monthly required classic as it's the 70th anniversary of Night of the Hunter. Robert Mitchum plays serial killer Harry Powell, who poses as a preacher to disarm and earn the trust of the local community, most specifically the wife of his former cellmate, whose children know where a large sum of money is. Now, if this sounds closer to a noir, it really is, but it does have horror leanings and has become tremendously influential on the genre. For one, this is mostly told from the perspective of Harry Powell, marking it one of the earliest films in which a serial killer is the protagonist. Yes, this predates Psycho by 5 years. Beyond that, there is a body count to this movie. And they even go as far as to show children in peril, which is something that's still somewhat taboo today. Now, as far as importance goes, this is a film that's frequently referenced in Coen Brothers movies, but it's also been a cited influence of Tarantino, Oliver Stone, Spike Lee, and Martin Scorsese. As a matter of fact, 7 years after The Night of the Hunter, Robert Mitchum would play a similar role in Max Cady in the original Cape Fear. When Scorsese remade Cape Fear in 1991, it was pretty clear that Robert De Niro's version of Max Cady was actually closer to Harry Powell than he was to the original Max Cady. But perhaps the biggest cultural significance of Night of the Hunter, if you never knew where the famous love-hate knuckle tattoos came from, it's this movie. And to date, I would still argue that it's some of the most known tattoos that have ever been in film. And then, courtesy of Fathom Events, starting on the 27th, you've got through the 29th to catch my most anticipated film from July, Ick. 2 Supermen prior to the current, Brandon Routh stars as a former high school football player that became a science teacher. Alien starts feeding off of the locals, and it's up to that science teacher to save the day. To me, this movie looks like some kind of hybrid of like Night of the Creeps, Shaun of the Dead, and the Faculty of the Blob. And before you scoff and start typing in the comments, "You are a boner. You don't know anything about film. It'll never be that good. And by the way, many other people talk horror on the internet. Haven't you ever heard of..." Go watch the trailer. I never tell you to do that. Just go watch the trailer. It's that good. If you don't want to watch the trailer, just look at this soundtrack. Elder Emos fucking rejoice. This is the burned CD that was playing when your 93 Civic finally died. Hey, which Hoobastank song do you think that they're gonna use? I maybe need more of a reason to go see this. I don't know. Probably like Crawling in the Dark or Out of Control. I mean, they both look like they fit the pace of the movie and they're thematically apropos. Dick. Hey, I'm not a perfect person. Hey! But on the 30th, I will definitely be seeing Dave Franco and Allison Brie find their perfect person in the body horror event of the summer together. This is a movie that I think people can largely deduce the entirety of the film based not only on the trailers, but just even the poster, right? And where that becomes intriguing is that I don't think we go out to see a movie like Together to see what happens. I think we go to see how far they're really gonna take it and what the point of the movie is. Because we already know that our main characters have found a reason to start over new. And the reason is each other. Steal my fucking joke. It's my fucking birthday too. We're the same fucking person. And there you go. That's gonna do it for today, creeps. Do all these things. Let me know what you're looking forward to seeing in July right over here. And as always, this is all just a matter of opinion. See them yourself, make your own decisions, remain critical. Support horror.